And I've been reflecting on what our lives would look like if we really lived like we belong to each other. How would we live if we really believed that we are part of the entire human family, not just those in our smaller circle of family and friends? I believe with all my heart that we are deeply connected to each other, that we cannot become all we were created to become when members of our human family lack opportunities to become all that they were created to become. I believe with all my heart in the oneness of the human family, and that we deny that oneness at our own peril. And yet I struggle with fully living that belief day in and day out. Because we live in an addictive culture that constantly bombards us with messages that we need more possessions, more experiences, more activities, more opportunities for our children when they, in some cases, have already are already overscheduled. So this morning, I would like to offer 4 practical suggestions that I know I need, and I'm hoping that they will be helpful to you in some way. The first suggestion: we can grow more aware of any way that we invest time, energy, and money into creating some image of ourselves to win approval from others. And we can make a conscious choice to stop investing in seeking approval in that way. We only have one precious life. Why waste any of it on illusions and on things that won't last? And the reality is we can't control what anyone thinks about us anyway. So investing in some image is a total waste. Mother Teresa said, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." We need to find new ways to invest in kindness, to invest in love, because love is the only thing that endures. When I was 20 years old, just after graduating from college, I served for 3 years as a volunteer in a hospital in the Gaza Strip and in a dormitory full of kids just outside Tel Aviv. I was out running with a friend one day when I spotted a new face in town. I asked, "Who is that American guy?" My friend told me that he was the new history teacher at the international school and that he was super smart. I blurted, "He's also super cute." Kind of preppy, but cute. Coincidentally, the very next day, I was asked to give the cute new history teacher a tour of Jerusalem. In a shameless attempt to impress him, before I picked him up, I spent 6 hours studying my notes on the long history of Jerusalem, all the way back to its founding in 1200 BCE. Well, as some of you may have guessed by now, that history teacher was Bernie No, the cute man that I've been married to for 28 years. After dating for a while, we reflected on that first day that we spent together in Jerusalem, and Bernie confessed, "By the end of the day, I thought if you shared one more historical fact about Jerusalem, I would die." He went on to say, "I was not impressed by all that information. But the thing that did intrigue me was when we ran into a tattered, dusty Bedouin camel driver who appeared to be over 100 years old. He threw his arms around you and seemed to really love you. I keep meaning to write that camel driver and thank him for saving me from myself. Which brings me to the second practical suggestion for how we can live like we really belong to each other. We can reflect on what we need in the way of material possessions, including our need for vacation and recreation, education of our children, and then put a cap on our spending. If we do not put some cap on our spending, we become trapped in this ever-escalating cycle of desire for more and more of that which can never satisfy our deepest longing. If we do not put it, and if we do put a cap on our spending, we can share more and allow resources of time, energy, and money to flow through us to create a more just and equitable world. Studies reveal that a disproportionate amount of the giving in this country is done by people who have very little discretionary income. In the 30 years prior to the current recession, our material wealth had increased in this country, but our self-described happiness had steadily declined. Elsewhere, the people who considered themselves very happy were not in the very poorest nations, because there's nothing happy about not being able to feed your children, but neither were they in the very richest. The winners were Mexico, Ireland, Puerto Rico, the kinds of places that we identify with extended family and caring communities. The studies revealed that once we have reached a certain level of comfort, the more we seek does not bring us additional joy, but could instead create isolation. Which brings me to my third suggestion. We can grow more aware of our extreme individualism. We take in individualism with our mother's milk. In some ways, individualism is a great thing, but we have lost a sense of interdependence and deep belonging in our country. As some of you know, my daughter Kitri and her dear friend Mary Patton lived in a village in Haiti this summer, a village which was demolished by the earthquake. They each lived with a family in a one-room tin shack with no running water or electricity, and they bathed in the rapid river. One day, Mary gave a banana to the little orphaned boy, Carlos, who lived next door. Instead of quickly eating it, Carlos waited until his friends returned from school and then carefully divided that banana 6 ways. Kitri and Mary explained to us that in their village, people don't see themselves with individual identities, that their identity is that of a people who belong to each other, so much so that a hungry child could not conceive of eating the entire banana when he knew his friends would enjoy a piece of it. In 1993, I spent some time with the community of men and women working for racial reconciliation during the final difficult year of the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. One of the members of the community shared with me the anti-apartheid activists are tireless and we need their commitment. But I don't think it ever occurs to them that most do not have one real relationship that crosses a racial or economic barrier. Real relationships are what transform us. We need authentic relationships that cross religious, racial, and economic barriers if we are to live like we really belong to each other. Which brings me to my final suggestion. And this is something I say all the time, so if you're one of my friends, feel free to just mouth the words along with me. We can choose to put our weight down with one or two expressions of healing and hope and invest our time, energy, love, prayers, and money in helping those communities shine. I usually recommend at least one place locally, one place globally. When we really put our weight down with one group of suffering and excluded people, that connects us to all those who are suffering and excluded throughout our world. And when we really put our weight down with one expression of healing and hope, we become a part of a movement of healing and hope, a worldwide movement. And that brings me to my invitation to you this morning to put your weight down with Recovery Cafe. Over the past 7 years, many visionary leaders and foundations in our city have come to understand that Recovery Cafe's therapeutic community is critical to Seattle's 10-year plan to end homelessness. They understand that without the support of loving community, the men and women we serve who are among our city's most vulnerable do not have a chance of breaking the cycle of homelessness, gaining access to mental and physical health care, and maintaining stability in housing. So these visionary leaders made an investment in love. An investment that resulted in Recovery Cafe acquiring and renovating a permanent, beautiful home that we moved into in February. Because of that investment in love, we could triple the number of people for whom we provide healing community in Seattle, and through our online recovery classes, we will nurture individuals and communities literally throughout the world. Today, we invite you to invest in love, an investment that endures. We invite you to invest in Recovery Cafe's loving community, which is a matter of life and death for our members. As Barbara Kingsolver said, when the question is asked of us, your money or your life, let's hope we're free enough to choose life. Not just for ourselves and for those in our small circle, but let's hope we're free enough to choose life for all the people to whom we so deeply belong. Thank you.